Okay guys, so being that we got here to Fort Bragg kind of late in the night and it was dark, I didn't really take you through the setup for that, but there was a couple of things I wanted to discuss kind of worth knowing about setting up, at least with the Airstream, at least our style of, me and hiker, style of setting up, and that's, I am constantly amazed at how easy this Airstream is to set up, to take down, to move, to get hitched, the whole thing. It was a little bit intimidating, and kind of more intimidating when I first got it because I didn't get the truck till after the Airstream was delivered, so there's this delay, and then I didn't have to tow until like way months later. So it was a little intimidating at first, but after that, like, this is so fast to set up. There's no slide to put out. Everything is just super easy to pack up and stow. I've definitely got a whole lot more comfortable with using this rig as far as setting things up, taking them down fast. And on top of that, like, it tows like a dream. Like, it really does a good job. I don't have to back up much just because of the way we travel. Like, we end up staying places for quite a while, right? So I don't usually have to change spots enough to do a lot of backing, but I found backing, especially with the backup camera that this has, amazing. Like, it is not a hard deal, even without the camera. Like, you watch your corners and it just maneuvers great. I grab my coffee. So dry camping, you don't really care about being level, you don't really care about the stabilizers. Most of the time you're going to stay hooked up. So it's just easier and more mobile to not involve a lot of stuff, so you kind of make do with the situation the way it is. So the first thing to talk about is leveling. I will say I've gotten the new LevelMate Pro Plus. It's the one that charges with USB, so it stays charged. It's a whole lot better than the last one. The last one was the battery operated, which is fine. I mean, you can change the battery. It is kind of a hassle because you have to unscrew the back and change it, and it's like a watch battery, a CR, whatever. That's a hassle, but it's doable. The problem with the old one was that it didn't maintain our zeroed out level for the rig. So what was level one time, I'd zero it out, I'd use the long level to make sure that we're actually level, you know, front to back and sideways. And then I'd zero it, and then we'd go to do it again, and I'd pull up the level and, you know, adjust until it was zeroed front to back and sideways, and come inside and it was not level. You know, stuff would roll off the counters, stuff would, you know, doors don't stay open the right way. So it just didn't hold the level system. But after changing to the new one, no problems whatsoever. I will say that I hard mounted the new one, like I actually screwed it in, whereas the old one I used a Velcro command strip on the back because you have to change the battery. I wanted it detachable. So that might have been an issue. Maybe the Velcro command strips weren't holding that as well as it needed to be. But I'm super impressed with the new one, and it stays charged, so that's even better. So it's a good deal. But as far as leveling, I'm not super sensitive for leveling in general, so I don't really have trouble sleeping on a good deal of a front to back incline or decline. I don't really have trouble. So I'm more particular if we're going to be staying somewhere for a while, of course, most people are. And my main criteria is I don't want stuff to roll off counters, doors to stay open, things like that. I usually leave the bathroom door open most of the time. Honestly, I like my bathroom and the way it's set up, and it looks nice. So I don't mind having it open, and it's just me, so it's not like a privacy thing. And even if it wasn't, there's curtains both ways that you could pull if you have an issue with that. But with that door, you kind of have to have the passenger side a little bit lower in order for the door to stay shut or stay propped open. And same thing with the refrigerator. You don't want to like have to hold the refrigerator door open while you're getting stuff out to try to get things, and you also don't want it to slam the other way. So that's why side to side is kind of important, and front to back, because it has a part to do with it too. I will say within about ½ an inch or so on the LevelMate Pro, and I've got it set to 1/4 inches, but within about ½ an inch, I can't really tell a difference other than the fact that doors and things. But feeling wise, I can't really really check that out. I will say too, theoretically, if your fridge is on propane, leveling does have a part to play in that because it's an ammonia reaction kind of thing. Catalyst, I don't know. Anyway, the tubes in the back that feed the liquid that interacts with the propane and cools down the fridge have to be level to a degree or things don't settle right. So it is important as far as like running the fridge on propane if you're going to be level or not. Talk about stabilizers. As far as me personally, I don't really care about stabilizers. And the X-Chocks are just another stabilizer on top of the stabilizers. The reason I use stabilizers and the X-Chocks are for Hiker, the dog. There's this constant jumping from the bed down to the floor, up to the couch, down to the floor, and there's this constant like rocking, right? There's also the fact that he gets pretty spooked out with wind, which is a little bit windy right now. So any wind that's like rocking the trailer, he gets freaked out, and then there's more jumping up and down, moving positions, getting a little freaked. So the stabilizers definitely help with that. Definitely helps with keeping it stable, not as much wind. Helps as far as like him jumping around to keep the thing stable. And it's just an easier feel, you know, walking around in the rig. But as far as me personally, like when we're dry camping, I don't deal with stabilizers. I don't deal with putting the X-Chocks on, anything like that. But as far as staying somewhere for a while, I'll put them down just to increase stability for the rig. So for Fort Bragg, I do use a dehumidifier. I actually got this specifically in Fort Bragg. I got it back when I had the R-Pod. And I had a little RV-sized dehumidifier. It's one of the small, like, countertop ones. It has like this minuscule reservoir that put out a little bit a day. Wasn't cutting it. Fort Bragg is extremely humid, extremely high precipitation for the area. So things get sticky inside really fast. I really hate trying to sleep while things feel sticky and humid. It's one of my least favorite things about camping and sleeping bag sleeping and all that. So I got this dehumidifier. Show a shot of that here. It is like, I forget, it's like 2,000 square feet. It's a pretty big capacity dehumidifier, and it does the job 100% for Fort Bragg. I have not needed this in other locations. So like when I was in Gallup in New Mexico, I think there might have been a day I used it because it was raining. But otherwise, it's really just for humid situations. If I was back in South Carolina, 100%, I'd use it. And it puts out, when it's really humid, I mean like a gallon a day. I mean, it's pretty serious. With that, I will say that Fort Bragg's pretty temperate temperature-wise. So it's usually anywhere from, during the winter, I mean, we never got below freezing, I don't think, during the winter. And during the summer, we had a couple of 80-degree days, which people felt was like a heat wave. And then it would get down to 50s, 40s at night. So I don't need the air conditioner as much here in Fort Bragg. And I pay for electricity at Leisure Time RV, which I'll talk about in a minute. So you don't really want to run the AC. If I was running the AC and the AC compressor actually came on, not just the fan, but the compressor, it would take the humidity out of the air, and you wouldn't need the dehumidifier. So like I said, because of the fact that I don't run the AC, and the heat pump would do the same thing if it was heating, it would take some of the humidity out of the air. So if I was using the AC units, probably wouldn't need the dehumidifier. But because I don't, dehumidifier. I wish there was a mode on these AC units to use them as just a dehumidifier. That would be pretty cool. Maybe like run the fan and a dehumidifier option, but there's not. That would be super awesome. It'd be one less thing to have to carry around, one less thing to find a place for. I've thought about ways of trying to like integrate this dehumidifier into a cabinet or something, and it's just, I don't know, I haven't found a great solution for that. But anyway, that's what I do here in Fort Bragg, and it helps quite a bit. Let's talk about electricity. Here at Leisure Time RV, I pay, I want to say it's $675 just as a flat rate for the rent, and then I pay electricity on top of that. So the water and sewer included, I pay electricity on top. That's not the case, at least when I stayed at Harbor RV in Fort Bragg, that was not the case there. So I don't know that that's the setup for most of the places around here, but it is for here. So as far as here, try to do things to minimize that bill, right? Which for the winter, I've run a space heater over using the heat pumps, which I figured there's no way the heat pump is going to be less wattage than the small space heater. The space heater on high is about 1500 watts. The heat pumps, I've never really seen any specific figures, but I think most figures of like turning on the AC unit, just the compressor part, is at least 2000 watts. That's what you would need for like your surge start on a generator to start up the AC. I do everything I can to minimize that electricity bill. So that means things like putting the refrigerator on propane, which by the way, I love having a refrigerator on propane. I know some people don't like that, but it barely uses any propane and it keeps it cold, and you don't use electricity other than to like start up the propane. So it works for me. I put the water heater, sorry, on propane. So I take that off electric, put it on propane. If I was at a paid electric site, 100% I'd use electric heating for the water heater. But because I'm not, propane for that too. And that can be a pretty good, water heater, anything heating wise is a pretty big draw. So that can save you on your bill. So I put that on propane. The space heater I use, thankfully, has a temperature sensor, so it will only come on at a certain whatever you set it at. So that can kind of help control. It's not like always on or always off or any of that. So you can kind of have it come on when you need it. That's especially good for being away. And of course, I work at night, so most of the time the temperature drops at night, which is when you would need it. So that kind of self-regulates at night. And then of course for cooling, if I need things cooled, instead of running the AC, I'm using the fantastic MaxxAir, whatever kind of fan this is, and opening windows and getting airflow going, things like that. But Fort Bragg is pretty temperate, so most of the time you don't have to do a whole lot, which is nice. And thankfully at this spot I'm under a tree, which provides a little bit of shade. So that works out. So it's really just a play of minimizing as much stuff as you can to keep that bill low. Along with that, I don't know if Leisure Time has 50 amp spots. The couple spots I've been at before last time and this time are 30 amp. So a couple of things with 30 amp. One, you do need an adapter. This is a 50 amp rig, so I have to carry the 50 to 30 amp adapter, which I do. And on top of that, you can still use it with your surge protector. You just have to put the 50 amp surge protector into the 30, and it doesn't cause any issues with you using the adapter or the surge protector. So that's one thing. The other thing is you have to be a little bit more mindful of what things you have going at the same time. Just trial and error, like I've figured out I can run the dehumidifier and I can run the space heater on high together. Those things I know. However, if I want to use the electric kettle, which uses 1000 to 1500 watts to heat water, then I need to go turn that off, or it's going to trip the breaker. So at 50 amp, I could run everything. By the same token, I have 2 AC units. I got the model with 2 AC units because I knew I would be in the Southwest, things would be hot, I would need the 2 units. On 30 amp, you cannot run those 2 units at the same time, so you'd have to pick. Now again, this is Fort Bragg, I don't even need one really. But if I was in other places on 30 amps, you kind of have to pick what you use. And if the AC was going with the compressor on and I wanted to use something like an electric kettle, I would probably need to turn the AC unit off, heat up my water, turn it back on. So it can provide a little bit of annoyance for like a juggling situation. Like I said before, as far as like electricity savings, if you've already got your water heater and your refrigerator on your propane, then that saves a good bit of that wattage, which you can use on other things in the rig. So just be mindful of what you do. It is workable. If we were in a hot situation where I needed the ACs, I would kind of be concerned about that because I might want both the ACs running at the same time. And I will say on 50 amp with like both the ACs running, I've never had an issue with like using anything else at the same time. 50 amp tends to take care of everything, so it's a pretty good deal. So I thought for this video I would just recap some of these things about setting up and taking down in our setup, particular to here in Fort Bragg, which we've done. Other than that, I will say I've gotten super into quesadillas as far as like Airstream cooking that's something fast and good to eat. So I'm going to show a little demo of that, a couple of different quesadilla like recipes I've tried. Definitely having fun with that. There's a ton of different stuff you can do, but I found it like a fast, easy to cook thing to eat. So I'm going to share a few recipes for that, and then I've done a little bit of mountain biking here in Fort Bragg, so I'll jump into that. And that should round us off for this week, and I will see you the next time. So this is our first quesadilla. This is going to be a mozzarella and pepperoni, which is essentially like a pepperoni pizza quesadilla. I've got these new MSR, sorry, not MSR, that is GSI outdoor steel pans, which work pretty well. Just going to use a little bit of olive oil spray there. Set the tortilla in the pan and put the cheese in there. This works a whole lot better than trying to put everything on ahead of time and then lift the whole thing and set it in the pan. This way you're already there. You kind of keep stuff from falling out. Just spreading out the cheese there. Looks good. Adding some pepperoni. It's a little higher grade pepperoni. Add a little pepper to it to give a little kick, a little garlic powder. And adding in the pepperoni. Like I said, I got those metal plates because I was kind of tired of being wasteful with paper pans, or paper plates, sorry. So I got those. I like them for the most part, I guess. They get, if you put something hot on them, they conduct heat really, so you have to have something under them if you're gonna like hold it in your hands or whatever, but. And just start up the propane here. You kind of have to scoot everything into place. Hold it in there while you fold it. And there we go. I usually try to kind of mash it down so that it stays put. And then give it a spray for the other side, which will flip once it's cooked enough. Look at that cheese there. Getting kind of crispy. It's almost like a pizza pocket. You can kind of lift and see if it's done enough. You don't want to turn the propane too high or it's going to burn the outside before it cooks the inside, but you kind of have to find that balance. Looks pretty good right there. Take you in to see that. Just a little crispy on the outside. Looks really good. And lift it out. I like to slice these in almost like pizza slices. And I found, especially with the spicier ones, that a little bit of sour cream is a great topper. But you can also use salsa. Especially with spicy ones, sweet salsa is kind of good, like the peach and mango, peach and pineapple kind of salsa. Pretty good. This is prep for another one. This was just for beef and bean quesadilla. So this is just prepping up the kind of the beef mix to have that ready to go on future quesadillas. So I'm just putting a little avocado oil, spreading it out. Avocado oil is high heat, so it doesn't burn as much as other things. Get that propane going again. Adding a little seasoning, garlic. Always add garlic. I don't use a whole lot of seasonings, honestly, other than just pepper, salt, and garlic. Occasionally when I cook chicken, I'll get those pre-made mixes from McCormick or whoever. So we're just gonna add in some black beans here and some refried beans. In the grand scheme of things, I don't know how much any of this is really all that healthy, but it is fast and it is easy to cook and it is satisfying to eat, so it's a good comfort food. Just make sure we're all stirred in there. There's a good up close of it. Stir it in again. That refried bean especially is pretty thick, so you have to kind of work with it. And there's a nice hot bite of beef and bean mix. So that'll be ready for future quesadillas, but to finish it off, we're gonna do a spinach and mozzarella quesadilla, which I was really looking forward to. A little healthier on this one, maybe. If you really want to take it up a notch, you can get fresh basil as well and add that in, and that really adds an extra kick to it. Spinach and basil mozzarella quesadilla. But this is just spinach and mozzarella. Again, with the standard seasonings there. You can kind of see as it gets hot, it's gonna drift down. Cheese melting there. Again, we're just gonna take a look to see how it's doing under there. Looks good. Yeah. I think the frying pan I'm using, or the skillet, is a GSI as well. It's an aluminum camping pan where the handle flips down over that. I got that back when I had an R-Pod. I got rid of my Teflon pan, and it was because it was so heavy. I think it was a steel Teflon coated. It was so heavy it busted through the shelf, so I got that lightweight pan. And here I'm just adding a little bit of salsa to one and a little bit of sour cream to the other. You can try whatever salsa you like the most. This is a great combo. Another little easy to make comfort food, which is great for any occasion there. And sometimes you just want something hot and it'll warm you up. So this week's a bit of a small adventure, but I'm just out here in Jackson State Demonstration Forest with the mountain bike, which is actually, I think, the second time I've used it, which is kind of sad. I used the one that was stolen quite a few more times than that, but I kind of got the kit back together right before I left Gallup and didn't have a whole lot of chance to use it. So out here checking it out. It's working pretty well. Nice day. It was about 70 today, which is the warmest it's been in a little bit. And just a nice quiet day out here in the forest. Pretty cool, huh? Just having a good time out here. Registered and I'm scheduled for a race, 10K, on the 23rd. So hopefully that's gonna go well. I'm back up to a little over 3 miles running out here, just doing trail running with Hiker. And I gotta get out today and try for at least 6 miles. So once I get back, that's the plan. I may come along the same route and run. Nice day.